Hello, I'm Steve. A little about myself. I'm a retired law enforcement officer with 20 years of service. I began my career in the jail, worked the road, and became an investigator. During my career, my training consisted of everything from SWAT to becoming a state certified crime scene technician. I've investigated crimes from thefts to homicides. After retiring and becoming aware of true crime and web sleuths, I started my channel for web sleuths to better understand the perspectives of law enforcement. Not only do we cover true crime, I go out into the field and assist families who have lost loved ones to homicide and their cases are considered cold. Join me as we look and bring attention to these critical cases. Hello, everyone. Excuse me. I'm glad y'all able to make it. We got some storms here in Georgia right now, so have to bear with us if I get kicked off the air. Hopefully, I'll be able to get back on. But for everyone that's new here tonight, um, uh, respect the families, respect mods, and respect each other. What'll happen is I'll have a short presentation, and um, and then I'll be answering questions after that. We're going to be looking, of course, at this Stephen Smith homicide, and tonight I'm talking about some of the puzzling circumstances about the vehicle. I worked on it most of this afternoon, and I'm trying to figure it out. And I'll show y'all some of the ways that are how I approach a problem whenever we have a vehicle. And of course, I don't have the round table and other law enforcement to speak with now, but I have you, and that means a lot. And of course, for everyone that's new here, um, we usually start off on the morning watch uh, with some type of true crime, and somewhere during the next hour, it would digress to something on the Waffle House menu. And it's just part of the morning watch and this crew, and uh, and I appreciate everybody being here. But all right, so with that being said, let's see who's in chat right now, and then we'll get on to the case here. All right, Watt the Beck, it's good to see you. Single mom, Jill, Dave, the Waffle House guy. He'll bring it up. And Southern Gal, True Crime. Good to see you again. Hope your channel's doing well. There's Mary. Good to see you. Grace. Good to see you. WF22. Good to see you again. Yeah, Dave. At some point when next week I'm gonna probably be doing a whole show just on him. So yeah, I'll look at that. All right. And single mom of four, she had about the assault kit being done. Um, I'm glad they did, and it needs to be done on all homicide victims, regardless of sex, um, for the fact that and if they're clothed or not, it's when you find victims that are unclothed, of course, it's automatic. Not so much when they are fully dressed and in an orderly fashion, but it still needs to be done for because there's a lot of things that can happen, even from consensual to non-consensual situations, and it's good to have that information. Pigeon Mac, good to see you. Let's see here. Who else we got in here? Fuza, good to see you. And yep, yeah, storms for Georgia. I'm telling you, they've been harsh tonight. They're going. They're moving more towards the south now, thank goodness. Although we're you know having a little bit of issue with some of the lightning and the rain. We're not getting flooded as bad. Debbie, good. Princess Skywalker, hello. Kay, good to see you. Kowalski. Let's see here. Chelsea's here. Rebecca. Eileen. And Robin. let's see here. What Robin's got here. I watched an interview from Stevens' lawyer earlier, and he said that they would have no evidence or indication that Buster was involved. And probably so. I mean, they it, it's early in the investigation, and I'm sure law enforcement now, as they're looking at everything, um, are discussing a lot of different possibilities. As you'll see, that I'll be discussing a lot of possibility about the vehicle, and I hope it opens up y'all's minds to consider a lot of different possibilities. And as you consider those, if you have thoughts, either in chat or through emails or any comments, I'd appreciate it. And let's see here, Stacy, good to see you. Josh the Posh, hey, you're gonna have to fall asleep in a little bit. Hopefully not. Yvette, good to see you. All right. So anyway, of course, like I said, we're going to be talking about Stephen Smith, who his body was located in the middle of a road and near his home, just within a couple 3 miles, and his vehicle was a little bit further away, and that's what we're going to be focusing on, is where this vehicle was parked. And you see, in this location, it's way off the road, a little bit more than that. If you was having some type of or experiencing some failure of your vehicle to operate, he went a long way off the road for that. And as we look at this and we discuss the possibilities of how come he's off this far, and what may have caused that, or not. I mean, he may have just been overly cautious and pulled over, or it's part of the staging, or he was meeting someone at this location. But here are some of the possible scenarios we're going to look at. If it was a breakdown, was it a planned meeting? Was the vehicle totally staged sitting there, or was it some type of vehicle stop? And when we get into that part of it, we have to look at, is it a police impersonator, is law enforcement, or just what's going on? And because we have to consider all options, and law enforcement would, they, because certain parts of the country do have police impersonators. And does this part of the country have? I don't know what the past incidents are, but they would look at that. But we'll cover each of these topics as we go into them, because I broke them down each one. For the breakdown part of it, that the offender, if he had set the vehicle up to be broken down, is one thing, because the vehicle did break down a couple of days earlier and the sister came over and got it fixed. But if it is that he had staged it to break down possibly, or run out of gas or whatever, that's something that would be considered. But he would have to know that there's a certain amount of time on it. But say that this Stephen's going down the road and he does have an actual breakdown. Now the offender has to be a chance encounter, or it's someone that he called for assistance. And which one is it? I know that the mother made mention that he wouldn't have gotten into a vehicle with a someone he didn't know, but doesn't mean that there couldn't have been some type of coercion, that someone was a chance encounter and it's an abduction, or if it is someone that was following him down the road because he was experiencing um, um, some type of vehicle problems and he wanted to be followed. And then, what does that lead to? And like I said, if you're trying to help someone, you wouldn't think that the person following you that you've requested to help you would harm you. I mean, you don't ask those type of people. But if it is someone that he's having domestic issues with, that has set the vehicle up to stall or run out of gas, or he's contaminated the fuel, that would cause it to break down, and you just keep it in sight until it does break down. There's so many possibilities in it of how you could cause a vehicle to stop. But for you to be able to set it up to stop, um, and put it in this position where it would at this exact moment is highly unlikely. But then we go to a planned meeting. That if it is a planned meeting, he absolutely knows who the individual is. And then the individual that he drove there under his own power, and he met this individual at this location. And then the individual has to stage that vehicle and make it where it won't start. And there's a lot of ways to cause a vehicle not to start, not just fuel issues. Once you raise the hood, if you have the key and you raise the hood, you can, there's a lot of ways. And throughout history, we see that some of our repeat offenders are very knowledgeable that they will cause their victims' cars failure to stop or to start, so that they can become the knight in shining armor and try to help them crank it. But it was be the same mentality that if it was a planned meeting, and now how do I keep that car from starting? There's a lot of things under the hood that can be done, especially with these uh, some of the uh, electronics in a vehicle. Also, we have to look at that um, the vehicle was brought there and is staged. If it's brought there and staged, now we have to have more than one offender. We have to have two offenders. Someone has assisted him bringing the vehicle there, that has assisted him in all this time since the crime by not notifying law enforcement, and that we have a crime scene somewhere else. And where could that crime? And then they have to bring the vehicle back and stage a vehicle breakdown. And then finally, we have where the vehicle stopped. And do we have a police impersonator out there? And if we do, we still have the staging part of it, because we have the body of Stephen that's 3 miles away, and has the key to this vehicle. Doesn't mean it's the only key, but he does have a key in his pocket. And I don't know if it's on a keychain, but they did say the key in his pocket, and his cell phone, which was turned off at the time that law enforcement got back there. But anyway, with that being said, before chat gets too far away from me, I will go back in there and catch some of that up. All right. Okay. All right. Grace said, I read all day about this case. Yes, it's very interesting. All right. Let's see. Don't want me to send the storms up there? All right. See if anybody's got any questions. Glad everybody's here this morning. Um, and but like I said, I want to talk about a lot of this stuff, and see if any of y'all have any idea. Angel, Georgia. So much lightning. Yes. Uh, the cherry blossoms are in Washington right now. Excellent. Um, Kay says, I'm really leaning towards Alex being his love interest, and would explain why Maggie and Alex were living apart. That is something to consider. And it also is something to consider about the ability to pull vehicles over. They does have lights and things. I don't know if he is the prominent individual, and if that is possible. With what evidence we have now, anything's possible. Um, and um, I think in some of the other relationships, Stephen was with older males. And so I can't argue your synopsis there, that possibility. And we're getting our start on the Waffle House best chair throwing experience money could buy. There is a great video about a lot of fights in the Waffle Houses. Oh man, that's funny. Oh gosh. All right. And no, he pulled over to meet someone. He was nice and left them the paved area to park. Absolutely possible. I'm looking at that, and I've looked at um, uh, uh, the turning radius of that vehicle, um, as far as if it's staging or not. That vehicle, from the research I did, I think it's like uh, the um, a 16-foot turning radius, which would put that vehicle pretty close to that location. That if you was in the lane going in the opposite direction and you made a U-turn and drove directly to that, that would be pretty close to what a 16-foot circle would be, I'm thinking. I don't know that. That's one reason I would love to go over to that area and in that exact oncoming lane and do a U-turn and see if that's where my vehicle winds up at. I think I would find that extremely interesting, and I hope somebody will go out there and do that. If not, it's quite a drive for me, but I'm interested in seeing if that would be the natural position of a vehicle being turned around. And if that is the case, then we have to um, give more weight to that it was staging and the vehicle came from the opposite direction. Just don't know, but it appears that it would be very close to that. And Thuza says, that's interesting. I never thought of that. Um, uh, I hopefully one of my thoughts was interesting. Don't know. The only police impersonator in the area I know of is out Murdoch, and absolutely. But there's other people that could have, and possibly, but we know that his vehicle was, and I I didn't want to absolutely just not give it some weight that it is possible, because he does have blue lights, and he put them on there for a reason. And did he ever use them? Did he use them for speeding? Did he use them to flash at law enforcement if he met somebody running radar, one of the troopers or one of the other agencies? Possible. Um, uh, there's a lot of different reasons why certain people um, try to impersonate. Hello, Betsy. And I'm thinking if he truly broken down, he would have contacted his mom or sister for help. And it is possible, but there was another individual that he spoke with that in the early morning hours, and he was out somewheres in the early morning hours because we know that law enforcement says between 1 and 4. And so they have to have a baseline of what that 1 o'clock was. Is that when he spoke to the other individual he had a relationship with? Is that what they're basing that timeline on? And if he knows that certain people are up and he has any kind of relationship, would he call them and ask them to come help? Or if he was at a house party, or he was at the lake or at the Bobcat boat ramp and swimming with other friends, and are they in his call list? Wouldn't he call them? Or would he, being that close to home, only, you know, basically 5 miles, 6 miles away from home, would he think, oh, okay, I can walk this because it's only a 5 minute drive. I can walk it, not realizing it's going to be an hour and a half. Um, and just don't know. Um, Kathy, yes, I also heard he was seeing an older gentleman. Not sure if true, but heard that. Yes, I have heard the same. Josh the Post, this is 8 or so miles from the Murdoch property. Is that? Yes, it is. QS or Q's, Mr. Stevens King. Thank you. That's very sweet of you to think that. um, My mind isn't as sharp as it used to be, but I still try. I have my moments every now and then of clarity. Um, I'm trying to say this nicely. Was she aware of his profession? And profession means that he was of a professional, and I don't know if that's the case or not. Um, Now, absolutely, he everyone knew he was gay, and that was part of his lifestyle and his choice. Um, as far as any professions or any of that, I don't know. I think that he was in some dating apps or something. Hello, Ty Kitchen. Good to see you. Yeah, profession is not a real good term. Um, in my opinion, there's more than one involved. Very possible. Mitzi Scott, good to see you. I hope everything is well with your mother. Wasn't Alex a police impersonator? He was a solicitor that had his vehicle equipped with um, lights and I think even a siren. Those nuns and the sound of music knew how to stop a vehicle. Tom, good to see you. Yes, everything's going pretty good. The storms are starting to pass through here. I hate for everybody that's east of us, though. Um, Chelsea says, "Did Alex have lights for his car as part of his solicitor's office position?" He did have a badge. Um, that's what he stated on his during his testimony. As he says, "She's on the mend." Thank you. Good. Glad. A thing I like to know is how likely is the car if the car broke down on his way home in the wee hours of the morning. Steve might have been Stephen might have been to just start walking home. Would he do that? His mother said he was skittish, but did he misjudge the distance to home? I mean, it's a very populated area, as you can see from the of the diagram and all the residences. You know, there's homes probably every quarter of a mile up and down the road, and where his body was found was only just over a football field away from a home. Yeah, Triple S. He didn't have a legitimate reason for the lights on the car. That's true. And this is a good point, Chelsea. If he did break down and decide to walk, why would he leave his wallet? That's a good point. Have you heard about the Craigslist post by Stevens? I've heard, but I haven't seen any. We have a break of the ranks here. Josh Aposh says that he avoid Waffle Houses, but he loves the deli. Oh, man, breaking of the ranks. Was it a key or key fob? All law enforcement says key, and so I don't know which one it was, but they said key. Kowalski says, I'm thinking Alex was brought into this as a favor for someone else. There's a culture of older men having parties where younger men are invited. There's a lot of that in these areas of South Carolina. And that's probably so across the country, not just there. Um, you know, Um, Ty says, Mr. Steve, am I digging too deep with thinking the new buyers of Moselle have Alex's interest in mind? He's a Hampton neighbor. Why didn't outside investor? Um, I don't know why others didn't, um, and why certain people did. Um, I don't know the relationship on that, but as you dig deep into those relationships, you may find something. So no, I don't think everyone has to make choices of which way they're going and what rabbit they're going to run. And that's interesting to run those relationships to see if there is anything going there. Mr. Stay, I've tried finding you a tour guide. No luck. Oh yeah, no. And thinking about it, I probably wouldn't want someone that lived there uh, um, so much. I would like someone that knew a lot about the case, that had been on it for a long time, that just from the that part of the country. But as far as taking a local and possibly because they have to live there long after I leave, and I most certainly don't want anyone to feel any type of um, uh, repercussions for anything that a YouTuber comes into their community and does and then walks away. Um, that's not something I want to be a part of anyway. But I would like to find a YouTuber that has a lot of knowledge on it in that part of the country. Hello, Gail. Yes, there is a lot of suspects. Phoebe, I thought Alex impersonated an honest lawyer. Yeah. And if I had problems, no way I'm getting out and walking. I'd stay with the doors locked and call someone. Um, Understandable. And stay on the phone with them until someone arrives, you know? I meant purchase. Yeah, I figured it was something, or there was a new meaning to polo uh, uh, to that I hadn't considered. That's interesting, Betsy. I like these night owls lives. Thanks, Steve. I read that Alex liked to run stop signs and run up on people with Paul with the blue lights. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, Mary Waffle House about asked for Waffle House, only place where you ask for a cup of hot water to soak your utensils. Uh, yeah, Kowalski. There's a lot of different reasons that people run across and have encounters, um, and you know, I don't know the risk. Now, law enforcement looks at certain risk factors, and they try to do the victimology would tell law enforcement exactly. Um, uh, they'd look at his past relationships and try to understand, you know, uh, how promiscuous he was, or if he wasn't. I just don't know. But they would try to find that out through the victimology. All right. John Shepard said, "Did you hear that Stephen once contacted his sister? They ran out of gas and was hiding in the woods." I've seen that mentioned, but I haven't seen where the family said any of that, and or that the mother included that in her FBI letter. And So I don't know. Is there's so much speculation and rumors out there that can go that way, and after a certain time, it's on the internet and it has to be true. Jill says, finally I can post. I'm glad. I don't know. Um, nobody, um, I don't know if anybody would have put you on timeout or anything. I don't know how that works. Cynthia, good to see you. We're doing well. There could be real police in on it. There could be one of his brother or other lawyers who knows, who could be high-ranking official. Alex tentacles reached a long way, and he may be. Later on, it does appear that um, he Alex's power was far-reaching, and he had a lot of power. Um, and you know, in the because we can see that with the local police that they instantly, upon finding the deaths and finding the bodies of Paul and Maggie, that they um, called SLED. They didn't want to be a part of this, and so that tells you that there is some type of link and knowledge between the Murdaugh family and local law enforcement, and as you would expect, because um, the sheriff's office is a political office, and those that have money that fund certain elections and things, they have a relationship, and they should recuse themselves from an investigation and send it to another agency. And they did that, so I can't really argue that part of it. Yes, Jeff, we're all doing well tonight. And John, yes, online dating is common for everyone these days. I It came along after, although I have some nephews and that did online dating, and actually one of them married someone he met online. And I agree with you, Kowalski. Culture is a better term than profession. Yes, a profession is not, you know, a, something I would um, term I would use with anyone. Um, Alex was an ambulance chaser, Gail, says Gail. It appears so. It so. Yeah, I'm over here in Georgia, and so it evidently it's moved south east of us. Thank goodness. And says likeliest scenario for me is he was coming home late at night. Rattle trap car broke down. Started hoofing it home on summer night on a country road, and someone accidentally hit him and took off. And that was what um, uh, the sheriff's office and SLED and the pathologist said happened. But the people that work wrecks, and I've never been at a hit and run, and I've been to hit and runs with pedestrians, and there's always debris. Um, I've never been at one where there's not debris, uh, be it a side mirror, shoes knocked off, pieces of the grill, pieces of a headlight. Um, if you go across the hood, you can have, or even from the front of the vehicle, you'll have paint transfers onto your clothing, onto your skin, from the paint of the vehicle. Um, if you go up over the hood and you hit the windshield, you'll get glass embedded into your clothing, and they don't have any of that. And so that's the only reason that I don't think. Plus, uh, when you get struck by a vehicle, your lower extremities uh, gets broke. There's a lot of it's from your hips to your legs, um, uh, even into your organs in your body to your ribs. There's a lot of things that can get broke, and we don't have any indication of that currently. The new autopsy may reveal some of that, but currently we don't have any of that right now. Was there a bullet wound involved? I keep hearing something to that effect. If so, how was hit and run determined? There was some type of projectile, and so and there was not a projectile or a bullet recovered from his the from within inside his skull. So what does that leave? What type of injury is it? What will have caused that hole? Um, I've got I've got to talk to Chris tomorrow. I've got several possibilities, and because I've looked at everything in my house that I own and trying to figure out. I don't know the size of what they thought the first coroner thought and the first officers thought that there was a projectile. I don't know what size, meaning about what caliber they may have thought that it would have been from if it was a gunshot wound. Steve, things like the turn radius of the car, crucial things like that would never occur to me. You analyze a crime scene and go from there. You don't go after people, you go after facts. Yes, and that's how come that where the vehicle is parked, it's always bothered me being that far off the road. And is that the turn radius? And if it is the turn radius, that means the car was stays there coming from the other direction. And so, um, and unfortunately, my vehicle is has a 20-foot turning radius, but I can if I go over there, I'm gonna find somebody that has a 16 because there's a lot of vehicles that have that 16-foot turning radius, um, and I I guess I could go to a car rental place and say I need a car with a 16-foot turning radius, and go over there and try that and see if it puts me in that location, and it'd be interesting to do. And that's a good point, also, Robin. How skittish can you be working on as an escort or placing ads on Craigslist? That's a good point, which I don't know if he was or was not. I'd heard that rumor, so I don't know. What did he need those lights? What could he ever use them for? That is so suspicious. Absolutely. Why would who was he busting so much that he needed lights to go with that badge? Was he busting dealers for his habit? It's possible. Oh, John says apparently once before Stephen texted his sister saying he broke down and was hiding in the woods because he was scared of something. I haven't heard that. If y'all have any links for that, let me know. Um, Hi, Steve. Did you know that Randy offered his services to look into the death and to represent the Smith family for free? I saw where inside of Sandy's letter to the FBI, she referenced that he had stepped forward and offered to be a liaison between them and law enforcement. Phoebe says no persons like Stephen have security issues, um, especially at dark. They fear attacks by people who oppose their lifestyle. He would not walk alone on a dark road. Possible. I don't know. Try and get caught back up here. Let me see. How far behind am I? Oh, I'm quite a bit behind. Oh me. If I missed some of y'all's comments, I apologize. Mr. Steve, could you reach out to Eric Allen? Um, I haven't reached out to anyone. Um, and um, I'll have to check. No, I have. I I generally always to get involved in a case. I normally let those. Um, you know, there's a lot of people things, and I don't want to step on anyone's toes. Oh, Jill, $10 super sticker. Thank you. Appreciate that. There's your blue light. Thank you. Um, on Dave, any alcohol in his tox, I have no idea. Um, I know that there is a report about the toxicology, and there was um, it didn't show anything in the report that I've saw, and that is only in the notes of one of the investigators. Another thought I've had is that maybe he fainted or something like that while he was walking along, and then somebody hit his body along the road, and realizing what they'd done, took off. Um, and but what would cause the penetrating injury and the dislocation and road rash and not leave the tire tracks? Um, and that's a you know um, you got to have, if you run over something or you hit something, it's there's could be um, all different ways of injuries can occur, but there's no report of him just fainting. Is it possible? Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Uh, Gail says, "Do you think this can be solved?" Absolutely. And I wish they'd got onto it quicker. In any event, no excuse for law enforcement not to have treated this as vehicular manslaughter, even if unintended. Scandalous. They just let this go. Absolutely. You know, if it had, which they've now taken away, and I agree with them. I don't. My personal opinion is it's not anything to do with a vehicle other than the transporting of, and and it is a very odd case that if anyone had met with him there at the vehicle, and that was the location that the altercation started, began, and ended, why transport him away from there? And the only thing that makes sense as far as staging, and once again, why would you stage in two different locations? And that's the puzzling part of this thing. And I can't make sense of it, because you have to stage the vehicle if you're driving the car, or your um, co-offenders driving the car, and you're following, and you have Stevens um, um, body in the back of the vehicle, or in the bed of the truck, or wherever it's at in the back of the Suburban. And so you're having to follow someone to park that car there. And then you have to take the key and put it in his pocket. Then you have to go dispose of the body. And why not just dispose of all of them there at the same time? So it's very confusing on that. So, and how will law enforcement ever figure this out? That would be interesting. If they can figure out who the offender or offenders are, it might, you know, like I said, it's extremely confusing. John, is it common for a student to run out of gas regularly? I think he broke down at the gas station the day before. So if he, and it wasn't for gas that time, it was something to do with electrical. Has there been any other partners of Stephen that have come forward? I think law enforcement, in the report I read, have spoken to at least maybe 3 of his partners. I know at least 2, maybe a third one. And he was meeting someone, in my opinion. Why else pull off to the side as far as he did? Also, his sister said he never would have gotten into a car. He didn't know the person. And um, meeting, and it is possible that he would meet someone at that intersection. There is an intersection there, just across from where that wide spot is. So it is possible that there could have been a meeting. Once again, I can't argue with that. And Ann says plausible. It's too late for him to call his mom and sister, and since it was in the area he known pretty well growing up, warm summer night, just decided to hoof it. I would, before I woke up Mrs. Steve, and I only have 5 miles to go, and it's 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. I guarantee you, I'll walk before I wake up Mrs. Steve. Debbie said, I met my husband online. We've been married for almost 15 years. Excellent. Yeah, Pigeon Mac, culture is a great term. Absolutely. Is there any record of how much gas was in the tank? And no, and that was the thing I was wondering if when law enforcement looked at the vehicle and they had it evaluated, did they have a mechanic look at it and see why it wouldn't start? And is it something that only, we've all owned older vehicles that sometimes they have a certain trick to get them started. Is that the case on this vehicle? I don't know. But could have been. And we just, when they find the vehicle, and I don't know if that vehicle is still in the family or not. And yes, Gail, you're right. They botched the first initial. Yeah, Charleston's a beautiful city. I'm glad you didn't run into the car, Triple S. No, Betsy, I didn't know. Are you familiar with Sheriff Greg? No. And how he seemed to show up anywhere the Murdochs had a problem, boat crash, Moselle, and even not his jurisdiction. No, I didn't. Yeah, John, he had a partially dislocated shoulder. Mary says, what will or can be checked when the is examined? I'm sure they're going to do a lot of x-rays, especially the lower extremities, and also probably full body x-rays from one end to the other, and see if there are any other type of broken bones, and how well he is, you know, was he embalmed, and was the procedure successful, um, and how well preserved is he, and I don't know what they'll be able to find. I mean, we're talking about if the bones are broke, of course, that's one thing, but as far as the body tissues and things, that would probably be something else. All right, try and get caught up again. If I miss anybody, Let's see here. Grace says, I felt he was afraid of something possible. Grandma Bunny says, I love that Grandma Bunny. Yes, shoulder was injured. Um, Steve, can you talk about the dislocated shoulder and how easy that is? Someone is restraining you with it. I was in a confrontation one time, and the man put me on an arm bar and dislocated my left shoulder, and it still pops in and out now. And it is something that can happen during a struggle. Um, and was that? Don't know, but it is something that to be considered. Um, and but like I said, uh, this shoulder here was totally taken out, and I was lucky enough to be able to um, disregard that injury and able to inflict uh, some injuries on him that he couldn't recover from. Oh, yes. He had tan shorts on, but the shirt was black. And uh, Ishi, I may butcher that name. I apologize if I do. I came up on hit and run shortly after it happened, and shoes were still in the street, like the guy was still in them. And he was about 40 feet from his shoes. It's strange to see, and I've seen that time and time again. I agree, Ann. All the talk about his personal lifestyle is unfortunate. Regardless of his lifestyles and choices, he didn't deserve um, um, anything that happened to him. That is not some reason to um, bully, batter, beat, commit a homicide, or any of that for any victim, for any choices. How busy do you think that remote isolated road would be at night? And that was something that the trooper that was in charge uh, in the notes I read had told other officers to go out there between the time span and talk and see who else was on the road the following nights. And it's just a canvassing technique that if you have a crime that occurs at a certain area at a certain time, you of course do your neighborhood canvases, but you also can do road checks and see who's passing through the area at certain times, so that because people work um, certain shifts, certain days, you could do that regardless of what day of the week this happened. You can do the next 2 or 3 nights, and then you come in on the exact day the that it occurred during those same time period and see who's on the road, because it may be um, a work night and then the other nights are off. You just never know. Nah, Dave, I think they've gone with the homicide now, so I think it won't be accidental. Um, the uh, the commander or whatever his job title that's over SLED said that they were going to now give it work it as a homicide. Now it doesn't mean they might not try to say it's still a vehicular homicide, but the troopers who work wrecks say it's not a wreck. And that was something that last night I was speaking of with a Christian behind the crime door, and as I was telling my members earlier during our members show, um, we have to look at this case and see that the mother who was crying the whole time and shouting to the world that her son was a victim of a homicide, and she wasn't by herself. She had a coroner who was on the scene saying the same thing, that he didn't agree with the pathologist. And then we have a state agency, the state troopers, is supporting the mother and shouting the same thing. And her shouts are falling upon deaf ears. And that's a shame, because can you imagine the frustration of all the people out there that uh, are fighting for their child who had died under any type of suspicious circumstances, that they may not have the state police or state patrol on their side or a coroner, and they don't have all that support. And even with that support, Mrs. Smith was still unsuccessful on bringing anything to the table that would convince the higher ups that it was a homicide. And until it got to the point that these attorneys became involved, then all the YouTubers, and then the people donating and giving the monies, and the people from the true crime world that put the pressures out there, and it became such a large story that they are addressing it now. So my hat's off to everyone that raised Cain about this. Yeah, Jeff, it does appear that there was some type of um, staging and or cover up. Yes. Um, Now he had his shoes, which were loosely tied. I don't know if there was any, because when you look at the photos of the shoes, and I have them, um, it appears that one of them was actually untied, and I don't know if that's something that occurred pre or post recovery of the shoes. I know they made notes in the investigative notes that the shoes were loose fitting, and so if he had had some type of high velocity impact from a vehicle, that more than likely he would have been taken from those shoes. Um, and the shoes doesn't appear to have any markings on them or anything. There seems to be some stains on them, and of course that would have to go to a lab to see what those are. And of course, I think the blue paint chips were on them. The only things I believe that around there more than likely would have been some blood stain on the road from where the head injury was. Um, but the mother did address the issue about there was no blood spatter located in the roadway, which she would have had to obtain that information probably from the law enforcement and the troopers working the scene, that would have looked for that. And because that's not a natural term for a mother to just come up with on her own. Was Stephen's skull and brain damaged? Yes, multiple, multiple. Um, some are suggesting absolutely what you're saying here is that some are suggesting that the car where the body was found should be considered crime scenes. Absolutely. And that's how come I was looking at this, is that if it is staging, and it was part of the staging, what type of evidence was overlooked at the scene, and because um, and if the car was put there by others, then that means we have another crime scene that's unknown. So we have a third location. Where did the crime occur at? Um, and then how many people are involved? Because for the car to be driven there and staged there, we have to have more than just one offender. Um, yeah, I haven't. Like I said, I don't. I pretty well don't step on or call others. You know, I get a lot of, and I don't. Really. Kristen, and there's a couple others that have had me on their shows a few times. I'm on Chris's show, but I really don't ever reach out to anyone. I just, for whatever reason, just don't step on people's toes. Um, I go in chat sometime, and people say, "Well, I'm gonna have you on." If they do, they do. If they don't, there's a lot of YouTubers out there that have some great channels, and some of them are in here tonight with us. Um, Josh says, "Was it determined whether the car had issues and was it in working condition?" Um, that's what I'm saying. I don't know what the mechanic, and if law enforcement had a mechanic to see what it would take to get it cranked. I hope it's not freezing on you. I apologize. It could be the storms. Let's see. And if you walked home, well, you bet Mrs. Steve would fuss at you. Yeah, yes, she would. She would. And I don't know. Is it too late to get his locations off his phone? 8 years. I don't know what the technology allows. Um, do we know the type of vehicle? Um, it was a Chevrolet. I don't even know how you pronounce it. Avio or something like along those lines. I think. I know it was Chevrolet. Yeah, I saw where it was negative. Thank you. They took pictures at one point. Where the clothes are now, I don't know if they released them to the family or not. Grandma Bunny says, "I thought there was metal paint chips on his clothing, aluminum bat. It was some blue paint chips. It was they were talking about, and it could have been from signs or mailboxes if it's hit with a bat, or but the report said signs, some type of tool, or there was a certain year that Toyota, I think, used that paint." Yes, I did. Like I said, he did. It took him a while to recover from that, and they gave us the little flashlights to take away my big flashlight. I would think it's isolated at that time of morning, that it would be very minimal traffic on that road that time of night. I would have put dark, yes, absolutely, and put them out and had road checks to make sure that we got interviews from people also. Hey, Boston, good to see you. Jocelyn, I never get notifications for the members only shows. Way to go, YouTube. Yeah, I'm sorry. You may have unsubscribe and then resubscribe, not for the members, but for I've heard that works. I don't know. Yeah, Grumpy Cat, the pathologist. Yeah, it's in the road, so therefore it has to be the road. Um, Good thing it wasn't at the airport, then it would have he would have fell out of a plane. Uh, I'm telling you, some of these people, their thinking processes. Was any DNA collected off Stephen? That's going to be the importance of the clothing that I hope they still have. And John, you would think Stephen would have some defensive wounds if he was attacked. They said something about hand injury, and the shoulder dislocation can be, but it depends on how violent and if that first blow to the head incapacitated him. Because sometimes you can get hit pretty good, and you go down pretty quick. Mandy Matney and Liz Farrell are amazing. We wouldn't be here today if not for their investigative journalism. I know that they're. I take it they're the ones that's been on it since day one. Yes, Jane, I agree. Nobody should judge others. Um, to have this type of head injury, it must have been from something being used with so much blunt force. If it were a baseball bat, wouldn't they be able to tell rather easily? It it depends on what injury they're discussing. If it's a laceration on of a different part of the skull, then it may be hard because even a round baseball bat will, whenever you strike um, the parts of the head, it'll lacerate and it almost look like a cut. The skin will just pop apart, and I mean, it almost, like I said, it looks like you cut it with a knife, and um, and that can happen from a baseball bat, and it just depends on the amount of force used. Of course, if it caves in the bone structure, and you can have something that will show you, um, in some cases, exactly what the face of that weapon that was used. If it's a pipe, it'll give you the size of the pipe that was used, or a hammer, or whatever type of object it is. It'll leave an impression. But sometimes, even like with a flashlight or a baseball bat, when you strike the head, um, and that skin that's between the skull and the metal, or of the bat or of a flashlight, it'll split just like you cut it with a knife. Yeah, audio. I knew it was something like that. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correct or not. And I don't know if they took fingerprints. Don't know. Josh Posh, you got to go get some shut eye. Well, good night. I'm glad you were here. Triple S, your airport comment made me laugh out loud. Good. And what the Beck, I think it's been, I've seen that comment where they gave the clothing to the mother. Hopefully she stored it and didn't wash it. I don't know that it disappeared, but I think it probably came back negative. Steve, are you planning on going to the Hampton Watermelon Festival this summer? I didn't know they had one. But no, if I go over there, I'll go over there with a purpose to check that turning radius is one thing, and also possibly to sit there and walk, and because you can tell a lot of things. I don't know how much that area has grown since then. Of course, with the Google Earth, you can go in there and see what it was then and see what it is now. And I like going to those areas firsthand because you can learn a lot from being there, just like I did with Delphi and most certainly with Evansdale, and rather than just looking at it from Google Earth. I didn't know they had a watermelon festival. Tom Jules, and there's Game Clue, and a lot of cases are like that. It is a there's no difference. Steve, what's your best theory in your view and experience? I have so much limited, and I have to be very careful. I want to have more um, reports than what I have now, and will I ever be able to have them? Um, and the biggest worry I have anytime I try to, when I voice opinions, that this is the only possibility, and I don't ever want to do that. I want people to think about a lot of different possibilities that can occur and how law enforcement looks at it. But as far as giving a specific theory about some of the crimes, I try to be as careful as possible until an arrest is made or something, and law enforcement already has it figured out. That's a different thing. But pre-arrest, I have to be extremely careful that I don't want to influence anyone that says, "Oh, that's the only way it could be," and possibly cloud someone that knows what happened, um, or has heard a rumor that so and so did it, and this is the way he did it, and they might hear me say, "No, this is the only way it could have been." And no, my best thoughts and what it is, I most certainly have one, but I'm gonna wait until I get a little bit more information. But good question, Pauline. I just try to stay away from s- some of that. I speculate, of course, but it's in a broad sense. Mr. Steve thinks Kendrick Johnson wasn't. I have no idea about that. I disagree with you. That's an interesting name there. I'm trying to think. I don't even know who Kendrick Johnson was, and that's an interesting name. Oh my goodness! Can't wait to see what else we post. Oh my goodness, that is a oh me. Oh God, I love that. I've got to look up who Kendrick Johnson is. Anybody know who Kendrick Johnson is? Oh, okay. Uh, that's the one that uh, um, was in the school. Okay, I understand that, but no, I never. I have never voiced an opinion on that in my life that I know of. Oh me. Oh God. Yeah, I know what the case he's talking about. Yeah, he's upside down in the gym mat. Um, but I know absolutely nothing other the case about that. Yeah, troll alert. I would think that. Okay, so that's a bot. So see what we can do with bots. Isn't it? Okay. Okay. So I took care. If that's a bot, um, we won't have to worry about the bot no more. Okay. Yeah. Uh, I was thinking, man, why would you go out and create such a title? But yeah, there's a lot of interesting things about this case, and we're going to look at some other stuff. But um, and I was getting to this, and Grumpy Cat, Mr. Steve, do you think $36,000 was a good deal for Alex alibi couch? I don't understand anyone's wealth that can pay $36,000 for uh, uh, anything, and so more power to them. Um, but no, I wouldn't have paid 36,000. I wouldn't have paid $36. Betsy says, "Did you see the crazies taking photos on the Murdoch sofa at the Georgia auction Thursday?" No, I didn't. Oh man. Yeah, you got $36,000 for a couch. Um, I've got, I've got. I'm looking at one, two. I've got two or three couches that I most certainly will offer you that I can come up with some very interesting stories about. Um, but I just don't understand it. And Christine says that he was beat with a baseball bat, placed in a blue pickup, drove down the road, and rode out the back of the truck. Uh, I really couldn't argue with that, yay or nay. And apparently, it's so the disturbing poem wrote by Alex. Um, I bet it wasn't truthful. I can tell you the name of the poem. It was not the truth. I'm just taking a. I'm speculating there. What's the name of the poem they wrote? Be the truth. Um, New Zealand and World Mysteries. Hello, everyone. Uh, all right, and also as we go out closing tonight, as we get near the closing part of it, I want for Dave and them the Waffle House Index. uh, I don't know for people that live in the north that don't have Waffle Houses, um, but I prepped this slide just for our Waffle House crew. That if you're not familiar with the Waffle House Index, you can go online, and it was something that the Fugate, who used to be the former head of FEMA, about talking about the different levels of of how you can evaluate storms, and one of them is the Waffle House Index, and it's used with law enforcement. We know it that when you come up in an area that's been affected by a hurricane, tornado, or any type of natural disaster, flooding or otherwise, you can tell from the Waffle House Index setting um, how much, how severe the storm was, and what needs to be done, and how much aid they'll need. Green, they have the full menu. Yellow, it's limited, and red, the restaurants closed. Waffle houses, to close a Waffle House, it takes a act of Congress. They don't close them for anything. And so when he said this back years and years ago, they've used it ever since. Oh, so if Alex can have a poem, I can have a Waffle House index. Uh, yeah, I want some waffle hash browns. Uh, I just want to throw that in there for our Waffle House connoisseurs that absolutely have to have a menu this late in the night. All right. Well, guys, I hope that we've I appreciate everybody being here. Appreciate the support, everybody watching. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, share it, and uh, absolutely, I appreciate you being here. Everybody that donated, appreciate that, and share the video if you can. And appreciate everything y'all do for us. And let's see, when's my next show? This is Sunday. Tomorrow night or tonight, later tonight, I think Chris is supposed to call me, and I'll be on his show tonight, and then Tuesday night, I'll probably be looking at a little bit more about this um, um, as far as suspects and things in this vehicle staging. Really don't know. There's several different avenues I can go into now. I just don't know which way I'm going to go yet, but hopefully I'll know in about 20 hours or so. But appreciate everybody being here. And Kowalski, I'm a Huddle House guy myself. Hey, I ain't got no problem with Huddle House either. We have those too. Yes, appreciate everybody talking to everybody and being so respectful of each other. Y'all are unreal community. Thank y'all for being with me. And good night. Stay safe now.